All right, I'm going to show you how to get started on and things to think about for your self-portrait. So in order to do this project, you are going to need to have done the face mapping activity, which could have looked something like this or this. The one that I did in class, it's not quite finished yet. I'm going to finish it up today, but we did this. So this is a plan or a map of where your facial features go on your face generally. So I do want you to refer back to this when you start your own drawing. So because this is a project, I'm doing it in the back of my sketchbook. Now this project, we are going to try to take up the entire page and you will do a drawing and then you will shade it. So I am working from a photograph. If you can work from a mirror, that's great. If you can work from your phone, it's okay. You really want it to be something that you can access often. And the reason I like to work from a photograph is because I'm always looking at the same thing. But I printed this one out, and if you're in class, you're going to have a printout, and I recommend that you use it and you draw on it. It will help you tremendously. If you're working from a photograph just on an electronic a device, such as your computer or your phone, totally fine. But I do recommend that you change it into a black and white. So you can desaturate it or you can put kind of like a grayscale on it. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing I want to do, because this is a process that is very complex, I'm going to be working with either my H pencil or with my just regular HB pencil where I am drawing very, very lightly. So the first thing I'm going to do, just like I did on the face mapping, is I am going to start out with a fairly large oval-y shape. Now, some of us, we did the circle first, and then we kind of dropped down, or you can start really lightly. This is very, very light. It might be hard to see on the camera, but I want this to be, I guess, about life size. So it should be larger than the photograph that you get printed out. So I'm going to start off with that general shape. Do erase as you go along for lines that you don't need, and make changes now rather than hoping they get better as you go along. So that's the first step. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide that face shape into half, the eye line. Now, when we did our face mapping, we did not erase these lines. But on your final drawing, yes, we are going to want to erase these lines. The other reason, actually, I'll go back to that I chose a paper or a page in the back of my sketchbook is because I'm trying to avoid indented lines, because once I start shading, those will really become obvious. All right, so I'm set up there. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go to my photograph and I am going to draw around my exact face shape. I'm going to add contour lines just so that is a little bit more obvious to see things. So I'm just using a regular ballpoint pen. You could use your Flair pen. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to draw a line right through the middle of my eyes. And what I want you to think about here is that this is the side of my face that I can see, but my skull actually is a little bit farther back over here and up. And that's going to be important when we start measuring for those eyes. So that is the halfway line. How do I know it's halfway? You know what? I'm going to estimate. We had talked about different ways to measure. So I'm going to take this. There is halfway, or I'm sorry, that is from the eye line to the chin. And then I'm going to hold my fingers up. That is halfway. I can do it with my pencil. So I'm measuring from the end of my pencil to my chin. And I am putting my fingers right there, and then I'm moving my pencil up so my eyes are about halfway down the skull or the face, not necessarily my forehead. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some really light lines for the inside corner and the outside corner of my eyes. Now this one's in shadow, it's a little bit harder to see, but I'm going to see if I truly can fit 5 eyes across that line. So here's my pencil. I'm going to put the end of my pencil and I'm going to move my fingers to where the inside corner of my eye is. So that's the measurement for an eye. Now, as I look in between my eyes, I have more than one eye width in between my eyes. So that is something that it's going to be a little different than the map. The map, when we made it, I said there is one eye length in between. Well, for myself, I have wider set eyes, so I have more than one eye length in between. But let's just check. So there's one eye length, and there's another eye length. My eyes are about the same length. If I go to the edge of, or the corner of my eye, out to, see where that is in my hair, that is about an eye length. That is less than an eye length. So when we did the eye map, the face map, we divided this line into about 5 equal spaces. Well, it's going to be different for my drawing. So I'm going to make some marks here, knowing that this space is longer than an eye length. And something I noticed that just happened, I said avoiding indents. I made an indent in my paper because I drew on top of that. Yikes. Okay, so longer than one eye width. Here's one eye width. That's longer than one eye width. Because this is larger than this drawing, I'm not going to measure this on my portrait, on my photograph. My drawing's larger than my photograph. I am going to measure here on my drawing. So that is from the tip of my pencil to the turquoise tape. That's about the same, more than an eye width in between. I'm going to move that a little bit. And then it looks like the sides of my face might need to come in. All right, so this is where I would start for you. I wouldn't draw the nose in. I wouldn't draw the mouth in. What you're going to do is you're going to draw the eyes in so that they are proportional to each other and they're in like the right space. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw around the shape of my eye with a line. And I'm going to do that over here. Now, if there's something that is difficult to see on the photo, you can look in a mirror. You can take another photograph of yourself and look at that detail. So I see that my eyes, they're not perfectly symmetrical. And a lot of beginning artists have a hard time with that. They draw one eye, they think they do really good, and then they go to draw the opposite eye and it's not the same. Well, my eyes are not perfectly symmetrical anyway. So let's do this. I'm actually going to fold my paper. And I'm going to drop this down. So what am I looking for? From that middle line, I am looking at the curve of my eye. Where does it curve? The kind of my upper eyelid curves up over here. Now, I think common mistake for beginning artists is to make your eyes too wide open. like a football, when a lot of people like to describe the eye shape as like an almond. So just think about how tall your eye is compared to how long it is. Um, and I don't like to finish one eye and then start the other eye. That is when people get hung up about this eye not matching that eye. I like to work on them at the same time. And then I can make adjustments to both of them as I need to. So when I draw really lightly with my H pencil, that allows me to erase lines, especially guidelines or other mistakes that I might have made. So one thing I'm noticing is this little corner, this curve, I think it's hard for you to see. This kind of curves down the inner corner of my eye. And then I don't think it's as dramatic. So the curve on this upper eyelid, it's kind of comes up quickly and then is more gentle. This one here is more even. So right there, no, I'm not drawing the exact same eye, but opposite. It's not symmetrical. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in my iris. So the color of my eye. And these are front view portraits. So your iris should be about in the center. What I want you to notice here is that I want you to look at this white of the eye. This, I think it's called the sclera, and how it relates, how much length or how much can you see compared to the length of your iris. And then look at the white of this eye is actually in a lot of shadow, but I'm comparing that. So again, often students will make their eyeballs or the iris too small or too big, like leaving no white of the eye there. So just look at that. Next, I'm going to draw in my pupil. The pupil is really important when I start to draw the corners of my mouth. I'm also going to draw around. I see this highlight right here. I'm going to draw around that right now. I'm going to draw where I see like highlights and shadows. So there's like a darker part in the corner, inside corner of my eye. Now I'm going to be looking at this line here where the crease of my upper eyelid happens. And then I know this is a little kind of uncomfortable, but I'm going to draw around my eyebrows just to see the shape of that. And I see this shadow here. So all of these little areas of shadow help me place the pieces of my face in the right spot. So I'm going to outline them or go over them on my drawing or on my photograph. And then I'm going to make sure that I have them because they all fit together and make your face you. Now I realize I have more wrinkles or more creases or different things on my face. Everybody's face is just a little bit different. So I'm not like finishing and shading in. I am sketching really lightly. So sketching allows me to try out the placement and to make sure that things are where they need to be before I really go into my dark values. So that's how I get started with the eyes. The next step, I will move on to my nose and my lips and then my face shape. So that is how you get started on your project, which is going to be your self-portrait. Use that H pencil, draw really, really lightly. And if you have a printed out copy of your photo, use that to draw the lines on top of it to make them easier to see.